Oh my god, have you read the latest chapter of Hidden Love? I swear, I almost screamed while reading it last night. A muffled squeal from the front row broke the silence of the classroom, which was still only half full. Yin, sitting in the corner of the room, 3 rows from the back, simply lowered her head a little more. Her slender fingers tucked a strand of her long hair behind her ear, while her eyes pretended to focus on the rows of numbers in her thick macroeconomics textbook. But behind her calm, expressionless face, her heart was pounding with a strangely pleasant rhythm. A tiny smile, so faint it was almost impossible to notice, appeared at the corner of her lips. Jungkook is seriously amazing, another female student chimed in, her eyes sparkling. I mean, he totally has that bad boy vibe, but the way he looks at Yuri, the way he touches Yuri's cheek before kissing her. Oh my god, this writer seriously knows how to drive readers crazy. I really want to know who's behind this pen name. Their imagination is insane. Yin held her breath, trying to keep the pride bursting inside her under control. This quiet, shy, and introverted girl who could barely put a sentence together whenever she had to present in front of the class was actually the writer behind the romantic story that had the whole campus obsessed. No one knew. In real life, Yin was just a boring second-year college student who preferred hiding behind novels, comics, or her laptop screen rather than hanging out at the cafeteria. But online, she was the queen of emotions, the creator of the sweet and intimate romance between Jungkook and Yuri that had thousands of loyal readers waiting for every update. Reading your economics book again, Yin? Or are you trying to hide that way-to-pale face of yours? That deep voice, filled with playful teasing, snapped Yin out of her thoughts. The masculine scent of cologne mixed with a hint of mint filled the air as Jungkook dropped himself into the empty seat right beside Yin. He leaned back casually, crossing his arms covered by a fitted black t-shirt, and looked at Yin with that crooked smile that always managed to get on her nerves. Jungkook was the complete opposite of Yin. He was bright, loud, surrounded by tons of friends, mostly guys, and had a reputation as a troublemaker who somehow always managed to keep his academic grades perfect. He was an extrovert who dominated every room he walked into, and somehow, at some point, he had picked up a new hobby, annoying Yin. I'm studying, Jungkook. Yin sighed softly, not even bothering to look at him. The exam's in 2 weeks. You should be doing the same. Jungkook chuckled, his low laugh rumbling softly in Yin's ears. You've been studying that chapter since last week. Besides, you're way too quiet. Don't you get tired of being a breathing statue? Come hang out with people, Yin. Or are you scared you'll fall for my good looks if you stare at me for too long? Your confidence seriously needs to be checked, Yin muttered coldly, flipping the page of her book a little too roughly. Instead of getting offended, Jungkook leaned closer. And your whole I don't care attitude just makes me more curious. What's even going on in that head of yours? What do you think about when you sit there quietly for hours? If you knew, you'd run for your life, Jian, Yin thought in panic. She quickly moved her chair farther away. None of your business. Can you go back to your little group and leave me alone? Jungkook smiled triumphantly at Yin's always defensive reaction. Teasing this girl was entertainment all on its own. She wasn't the type to blush or try to get his attention like the other girls. Yin genuinely didn't care, and that was exactly what kept pulling Jungkook toward her without him even realizing it. Fine, Miss Ice Queen, I'll let you breathe, for now. Unfortunately, Yin's peace didn't last long. That afternoon, when most of the students had already left the faculty area, Yin was sitting alone in a quiet corner of the library. Feeling safe, she opened her laptop and loaded the writing platform she was very familiar with. Her fingers began dancing across the keyboard, typing the continuation of Hidden Love. This time, the scene was about Jungkook finally getting brave enough to touch Yuri's neck, giving her a warm kiss that left a reddish mark. Yin bit her lower lip, completely lost in her own imagination, her eyes glued to the lines describing the intimate touch. She was so focused that she didn't hear footsteps approaching from behind the bookshelf. Wow, so this is what our model student does when nobody's watching. Yin jolted hard, her shoulders jumping. She instinctively slammed her laptop shut with a loud smack, nearly trapping her own fingers. With her eyes wide and her breathing hurried, Yin looked up and found Jungkook standing right behind her chair. The man had one hand resting on Yin's desk, his head lowered as he looked at her with an unreadable expression. What are you doing here? Yin's voice trembled, her defenses crumbling instantly. Looking for a reference book, Jungkook lifted the thick book in his left hand, then his eyes shifted toward Yin's tightly closed laptop. A mischievous smile slowly appeared on his lips. But I think I just found something way more interesting. What was that? A writing app? Don't tell me Miss Yin, the quiet girl, is writing a digital diary? It's nothing. It's just an essay assignment. Yin quickly shoved her laptop into her backpack, her movements incredibly awkward and rushed. I gotta go. Without waiting for Jungkook's reply, Yin hurried out of the library, her face burning red. Jungkook stayed where he was, watching the girl leave with one eyebrow raised. He briefly remembered what he had caught a glimpse of on the screen, a familiar app logo, an online novel app his classmates often talked about. And in the top left corner of the screen, Jungkook could have sworn he'd seen a big, bold title, Hidden Love. That night, in the comfort of his bedroom, Jungkook sat cross-legged on his bed with his iPad in his hands. Curiosity had been eating at him since that afternoon. He downloaded the app and immediately typed in the title he'd caught a glimpse of, Hidden Love. The story was ranked #1 in the campus romance genre. With his brows furrowed, Jungkook started reading chapter 1, then chapter 2, then chapter 3. The farther he read, the wider Jungkook's eyes got. His heart started beating a little faster, not because of the romantic scenes described in such vivid and sweet detail, but because of the realization slowly hitting him. The main character was named Jongki, a guy described as having a laid-back style, often wearing fitted black t-shirts, always teasing the quiet female lead, and having a huge circle of friends. When Jungkook reached the details in chapter 5, he held his breath. Jongki celebrates his birthday on September 1st, the same day heavy rain poured down over campus. Jungkook lowered his iPad onto his lap, staring straight at his bedroom wall with his mouth slightly open. Same birthday, same month, same attitude. Jongki, Jungkook. That girl, Jungkook muttered softly, his voice hoarse. An incredulous laugh burst from his throat, echoing through the room. He rubbed his face, feeling heat spreading around his neck. That quiet, shy girl. She wrote about me, and she wrote these scenes. The image of Yin always looking down coldly, wearing her reading glasses and knitted cardigan, suddenly clashed with the vulgar yet beautiful lines he'd just read: wet kisses, tight embraces, touches at the nape of the neck. Jungkook ran his fingers back through his hair. The attraction he'd always felt, which had only been about wanting to tease her, suddenly turned into burning desire and curiosity. He had to confirm it. The next day, Yin felt like the air on campus was unbearably suffocating. She avoided the crowded areas, choosing to spend her break between classes in the back garden of the Faculty of Arts, where hardly anyone ever went. She sat on a wooden bench beneath a shady tree, trying to steady her breathing. She prayed that Jungkook hadn't actually seen what was on her laptop yesterday. But as if the universe was laughing at her, a tall shadow blocked the sunlight shining across Yin's face. Avoiding me, great writer? Yin looked up, all the color draining from her face, when she saw Jungkook standing in front of her. The man had both hands tucked into his pants pockets, staring at Yin with an intense, dangerous look in his eyes, though there was still a hint of amusement he was trying to hold back. I don't know what you're talking about. Yin tried to stand, with only one thing in mind: getting away. But Jungkook quickly stepped forward, placing one hand on the back of the bench, right beside Yin's shoulder, trapping the girl so she couldn't run. Their faces were now only a few inches apart. Jongki and Yuri, Jungkook whispered, his voice low and hoarse, sending chills down Yin's spine. I gotta admit, your imagination is seriously insane, Yin. I never thought a girl as quiet as you could write scenes that hot, especially chapter 8. The way you described Jongki's breath against Yuri's ear, that was pretty damn accurate. Yin's breath caught, her eyes widened in panic. Jungkook, please, stop. You've got it all wrong. Got it all wrong? Jungkook chuckled softly, the distance between them getting even smaller until Yin could feel his warm breath against the top of her head. Jongki, born September 1st, loves black t-shirts, and has a hobby of annoying a quiet girl named Yuri. You secretly made me the main character of your fantasies, huh? Stop, please. Yin finally spoke, this time with a painfully pleading tone. Her hand unconsciously tightened around the edge of Jungkook's shirt, her eyes glistening as she held back unbearable embarrassment. If the whole campus found out that she'd been using Jungkook as the main inspiration for her steamy romance story, her life would be over. Don't expose my secret, Jungkook. Please, I'll pay you. Whatever you want. Money? I can give you money. Just keep your mouth shut. Jungkook fell silent, his eyes fixed on Yin's trembling fingers gripping his shirt before moving up to the girl's face, which was completely flushed with panic and embarrassment. Instead of feeling sympathy, Jungkook felt a strange, pleasant sensation in his stomach. The usually cold Yin was now completely under his control. Money? Jungkook smirked. tilting his head slightly. You really think I need your money, Yin? That's not fair at all. You use my face, my identity, my whole existence to fuel your wild fantasies. You get all the praise from the entire campus. You secretly enjoy being popular. And me, the main character, I get nothing. Yin swallowed hard, her chest rising and falling with her racing heartbeat. Then what do you want from me? Jungkook's smile faded, replaced by a serious expression that made Yin's knees go weak. The man leaned closer until his lips were almost touching Yin's ear. I don't need money, Jungkook whispered, his voice deep and full of intrigue. I want something real in return. That story, we're gonna bring it to life, act it out in the real world, once a day, with whatever scene I choose. Yin's eyes widened until they were almost perfectly round. The air around her seemed to be sucked away, leaving an unbearable emptiness that tightened around her throat. That's impossible, Yin protested breathlessly, her hands instinctively pushing against Jungkook's chest with all her strength, even though her effort didn't move him an inch. That story, it's already 8 chapters in, Jungkook, and I already plan to end it at chapter 10. There are way too many scenes in every chapter. You're crazy if you think we can do all of them. Jungkook didn't move back. Instead, he flashed a crooked smile, a calculating smirk that sent a shiver through Yin. Who said we're gonna repeat everything from beginning to end like robots, huh? The man tilted his head, staring at Yin with darkening eyes. I'll choose the scenes we're gonna create, and we'll act them out once a day. Just a different scene each day. But Yin bit down hard on her lower lip. Her face was now bright red, heat spreading from her neck all the way to the tips of her ears. Her heart raced just thinking about it. As the writer, she knew exactly how many romantic scenes there were, along with a few slightly steamy ones in the story. What if Jungkook deliberately trapped her and picked scenes like those? Why's your face so red, writer? Jungkook teased, boldly tapping the tip of Yin's nose with his index finger. Are you thinking about that scene? Don't worry. Let's start with the easiest one. Today, I want the first scene, the one where the main characters have ice cream together on their first date. Right now, Yin squeaked, her body going stiff. Yep, right now, at the ice cream place near campus. Come on, Yuri, Jungkook said casually, pulling Yin by the wrist before she could even say no. An hour later, Yin found herself sitting stiffly in the corner of an ice cream cafe. Across from her, Jungkook was staring at her while scooping mint chocolate ice cream, exactly like the kind Jonky liked. You're not eating your strawberry ice cream, Jungkook pointed out, tapping the table with the end of his spoon. In the story, Yuri eats it like crazy until she gets some all over the corner of her mouth, and then Jonky wipes it off. Do I seriously have to smear this ice cream all over your face to make you act like the story? You're seriously annoying, Jian, Yin hissed, but her trembling hand reached for the spoon and she started eating her ice cream. She ate it in a hurry, way too nervous because Jungkook's eyes never left her lips for even a second. And sure enough, a little strawberry cream was left at the corner of Yin's lips. Jungkook smiled faintly. He leaned forward, reached out his thumb, and gently wiped the leftover ice cream from the corner of the girl's lips. Sweet, the man murmured softly, staring straight into Yin's wide, shocked eyes. The ice cream, I mean. Day 1 is done. Yin, get ready for tomorrow. And from that day on, Yin's life turned into a simulation of her own novel. They kept acting out different scenes from Hidden Love, with a different scene every day. Unfortunately, Jungkook seemed to know exactly how to mess with Yin's sanity. He always started by asking for the sweet scenes, but as time went on, his requests slowly became more intimate. On the 3rd day, while they were walking side by side through the crowded campus hallway, Jungkook suddenly slipped his hand into Yin's and laced their fingers together. His grip was firm and warm. Chapter 3. Jungkook whispered when Yin tried to pull her hand away. Jonky holds Yuri's hand so they don't get separated in the crowd. Smile, or people are gonna think I kidnapped you. On the 5th day, while they were hiding from the drizzle on the roof of the faculty building, Jungkook suddenly pulled Yin closer by the shoulder, brushed away the loose strands of hair stuck to her forehead, then pressed a deep kiss to her forehead. Chapter 4. The first kiss to calm Yuri down because she's scared of thunder, Jungkook said hoarsely, his breath brushing against Yin's frozen face. On the 7th day, Jungkook kissed both of Yin's cheeks while they were studying together in the library, sending her heart into a crazy flutter that kept her awake that night. In her bedroom, Yin tossed restlessly on her bed. Her heart was pounding wildly, her hands clutching the blanket. She knew what was coming. The sweet scenes were almost over. She remembered perfectly that in Chapter 5, there was the first kiss on the lips that became the turning point in Jonky and Yuri's relationship. The next afternoon, Yin's fear became reality. Jungkook took her to the empty music room and locked the door behind them. An awkward, tense atmosphere immediately filled the air. Jungkook, no, not this one. Yin stepped backward until her back hit the wooden wall. Her voice was shaking badly. Please, just call off our deal. I can't. Why can't you? Jungkook slowly stepped closer, approaching Yin like a predator. He trapped the girl's body between his arms braced against the wall. In the story, Yuri said no at first too, but Jongki convinced her. Do I seriously have to read the original dialogue to you, Yin? It's just fiction. Yin cried out in frustration, tears starting to gather in her eyes. You're just using me for your own entertainment, aren't you? This is all just a game to you. Who said this is a game? Jungkook's voice suddenly turned hoarse and serious. Their faces were now only a few centimeters apart. Jungkook's gaze dropped, fixed on Yin's trembling lips. I'm collecting my scene today, Yin. The kiss scene from chapter 5. Before Yin could say no again, Jungkook lowered his head and captured the girl's lips in a soft yet demanding kiss. Yin gasped, her eyes squeezing shut as she felt the warmth of Jungkook's lips moving against hers. Instead of pushing him away, Yin's hands unconsciously gripped the edge of Jungkook's shirt, her legs feeling like jelly. The kiss was exactly how she'd imagined it while writing it, dizzying and making the whole world seem to stop spinning. However, Jungkook didn't stop there. On another day, when raindrops began tapping against the windows of Jungkook's car after classes ended, the silence inside the cabin felt incredibly heavy and tense. Yin swallowed hard, gripping her seatbelt when she realized the engine had been turned off instead of the car being driven forward. Chapter 6, third paragraph. Jungkook's deep voice broke the silence, his tone low and filled with anticipation. The next second, a soft click sounded as the man locked all the car doors from the driver's seat. Yin quickly turned her head, her eyes widening with familiar panic. Jungkook, we're still in the campus parking lot. Someone could see us from outside. Besides, I don't think we need to act out this part. Instead of listening, Jungkook leaned his broad body across the center console, trapping Yin in the passenger seat until there was barely any distance left between them. His long fingers slowly reached out, touching Yin's jaw and gently caressing it with his thumb. In your story, Yuri said exactly the same thing, Jungkook whispered right in front of Yin's lips. His warm mint-scented breath brushed against the girl's face, making the hairs on the back of Yin's neck stand up. Yuri was scared and came up with all kinds of excuses, but Jongki didn't care. You know what Jongki did to shut Yuri up, writer? Don't, Yin squeaked, her voice almost disappearing beneath the pounding of her own heartbeat. Her hand instinctively rose, intending to push against the man's chest. He kissed her. Jungkook cut in firmly. His eyes darkened as he stared straight at Yin's slightly parted lips, parted from nervousness. And in this chapter, it wasn't just some light kiss. Without giving Yin another chance to protest, Jungkook's hand slid from her jaw to the back of her neck, pulling the girl closer with a gentle yet intensely possessive movement. This kiss was nothing like the first one. It was much deeper, wetter, and more intense. Open your lips for me, Yin, Jungkook murmured between their kisses, his voice hoarse and demanding, blurring the line between the script and reality. Jungkook's tongue gently brushed against hers, asking for access that drained away every bit of Yin's defenses. The silence inside the car was now replaced by the soft sounds of their kisses and their uneven breathing. Yin's hand, which had initially been holding Jungkook's chest back, slowly lost its strength, gradually moving upward to clutch the collar of his shirt, returning the kiss with an intoxicating desperation she didn't even understand. The days that followed passed like a storm, slowly but surely wearing away the last pieces of Yin's sanity. Their secret routine continued, turning every corner of the campus into a silent witness to fiction becoming reality. Behind the dimly lit library shelves, in a quiet corner of the cafeteria at dusk, and even inside the silence of Jungkook's car, every scene from the story she had written was reenacted with a precision that was beginning to torment Yin from within. Those kisses no longer felt like some forced agreement or simply an act of revenge from Jungkook, who felt like his identity had been stolen. Something had changed. Jungkook's touches had become too gentle. The way his eyes lingered on Yin every time their lips parted had become too intense, and the way he tucked Yin's loose hair behind her ear felt far too real to be an act. Yet ironically, that very perfection was what became poison to Yin's heart. Because maybe this was just a game to Jungkook, but it wasn't to Yin. That afternoon, the sky outside Jungkook's apartment window was a deep gray, pouring out raindrops that hit the glass in a monotonous rhythm. Yin sat leaning against Jungkook's broad chest on the thick, fluffy rug in the living room. This was the opening scene from chapter 9. In the original script, Jongki hugged Yuri from behind while she was reading a book, resting his chin on Yuri's shoulder and wrapping his arms possessively around her waist. It was a sweet scene filled with intimacy without too much passion, simply emphasizing the feeling of comfort and belonging. Jungkook acted it out perfectly, his muscular arms wrapped warmly around Yin's stomach, his steady breath brushing against the curve of Yin's neck, sending thousands of tiny electric sparks beneath the girl's skin. "You've been reading the same page for the past 15 minutes, Yin." Jungkook's deep voice broke the silence, low and vibrating right beside Yin's ear. The man tightened his embrace, burying his face deeper into the hollow of Yin's vanilla-scented neck. "Is my heartbeat messing with your concentration?" Instead of answering his teasing with an annoyed scoff or her usual flushed face, Yin simply froze. The thick book in her lap suddenly felt incredibly heavy. Her vision blurred as unwanted tears began gathering in her eyes. Her chest tightened, as if all the oxygen in the room had simply disappeared. This was wrong. All this warmth, the sense of safety she felt in Jungkook's arms, the man's heartbeat against her back. All of it belonged to Yuri, not her. One tear slipped free, falling onto the back of Jungkook's hand wrapped around her stomach. Jungkook immediately stopped moving. His body tensed. Within seconds, his embrace loosened, and Jungkook turned Yin around until the girl was facing him. Jungkook's brows furrowed deeply, his usually relaxed face filled with a playful smirk now completely gone, replaced by pure panic when he saw Yin's tear-streaked face. "Hey, what's wrong?" Jungkook's voice softened, his large, warm fingers lifting to carefully wipe the wet trail from Yin's cheek. "Was I holding you too tight? Or did I cross the line again? Tell me, what part hurts?" That question only made Yin burst into tears. The girl who had always hidden her emotions behind an expressionless face and thick books now covered her face with both hands, her shoulders shaking violently. Yin shook her head hard. "Everything." Yin sobbed desperately, her voice muffled behind her palms. "All of this hurts, Jungkook." Jungkook froze. Her words hit his chest like an invisible hammer. A sharp ache pulsed through him as he heard her confession. He took a deep breath, staring at the girl with eyes darkened by regret. "I'm sorry," Jungkook whispered hoarsely. His hand slowly dropped from Yin's face, curling into a tight fist on his own knee. I know I forced you into all this crazy stuff. I just wanted to tease you at first. I never meant to make you feel violated or..." "That's not it." Yin cut Jungkook off with a hoarse voice, lowering both hands until she was looking straight into the man's dark eyes. Yin's eyes were red and wet, but there was such raw honesty in them. "It's not your touch that's hurting me. It's the fact that none of this is real. The fact that right now, I feel like I've been tricked, living inside scenes from a story I created with my own hands." Jungkook fell silent, his breath catching as he tried to process every word that slipped from the girl's trembling lips. "I'm the writer, Jungkook," Yin continued in a trembling voice, squeezing the edge of her own sweater to release some of her frustration. "I'm the one who created every sentence, every touch, every heartbeat in the story Hidden Love. But when you do those things to me, when you look at me and kiss me the way Jongki does to Yuri, I forget about the script. I'm stupid for letting myself fall this deep. No matter how sweet you are to me, no matter how warm your arms feel around me right now, in the end, this is all just a game to you, right? This isn't real. Tomorrow, when chapter 10 ends, you'll go back to being the popular Jeon Jungkook, and I'll go back to being boring Yin, the girl nobody notices. You don't like me. You're just playing along because you wanted compensation from me." Silence took over the room, leaving only the sound of rain pouring outside the window. Yin lowered her head, preparing herself for Jungkook's mocking laugh, or maybe the rejection that would end everything right then and there. She had destroyed the only thing that could protect her, her own defenses. But what happened next was completely beyond Yin's expectations. Jungkook's hand suddenly reached out, grabbing the back of Yin's neck with a quick yet gentle movement, pulling the girl closer until there was barely any distance left between them. Their foreheads touched. Yin could feel Jungkook's heavy breathing brushing against her face. "Look at me," Jungkook ordered, his voice low and filled with overwhelming emotion. Slowly, Yin gathered the courage to open her eyes, and she immediately drowned in the deep black whirlpool of Jungkook's eyes. There was no playful spark in them, no arrogance that usually followed the man everywhere. There was only such intense sincerity that Yin's heart seemed to stop beating. "You think I'm crazy enough to spend every day acting out romantic scenes with a girl if I don't have feelings for her?" Jungkook let out a quiet scoff, a bitter laugh that never reached his eyes. The man's thumb gently traced the line of Yin's jaw, moving across her skin with obvious adoration. "You're an amazing writer, Yin, but you're seriously slow when it comes to reading real-life situations." Yin's eyes widened. Her body went completely still. "What do you mean? Why do you think I kept bothering you from the moment we first met? Jungkook asked back, his voice softening as he pushed away the distance that had always stood like a thick wall between them. You're different, Yin. While everyone else is trying so hard to get my attention, you hide from me. You're quiet, but somehow that just makes me want to know what's going on inside your head even more. I was already interested in you way before I found out your big secret. Finding out you're the writer of Hidden Love. Finding out that inside that quiet head of yours, you imagined me as your main character. It just gave me the perfect excuse to touch you, keep you by my side, and make sure you couldn't avoid me anymore. Yin held her breath, her mind working hard to process this sudden and unbelievable confession. But those scenes, you were the one who forced me to act them out. Yeah, I asked for them because I wanted them. Jungkook cut in quickly, moving his face closer until the tips of their noses touched. I kissed you because I really wanted to kiss you, not because that damn script told me to. I held you because I feel calm whenever I'm holding you. If all of this hurts because it's just fiction to you. Jungkook swallowed, looking at Yin's lips for a moment before staring straight back into her eyes. Then let's make it real. Be my girlfriend. The air around Yin seemed to grow warmer. Tears slipped from the corners of her eyes again. But this time they weren't tears of pain, but of relief and happiness swelling inside her until her chest felt like it might burst. Not as Yuri, the fictional character, but as yourself, as Yin, Jungkook whispered, his voice filled with a sincere plea, as if half of his life depended on the girl's answer. The man pressed their foreheads together again, gently rubbing both of Yin's cheeks with his thumbs. Let me be your reality, just like Jongki became Yuri's boyfriend in your story. Let's leave that script behind and create our own story. No chapter limits, no scene rules, just you and me. What do you say? Yin's lips trembled badly. All her doubts, insecurities, and fears vanished without a trace, washed away by the warmth and sincerity radiating from Jungkook, the man who had always annoyed her, the man who had unknowingly stolen her heart both in real life and in her imagination. With a beautiful smile breaking through her tears, Yin slowly nodded, gradually lifting both hands to wrap around Jungkook's neck. Yes, she whispered softly, her voice almost drowned out by the rain pouring against the window. I want to. Jungkook, I want to be your girlfriend. The brightest smile Yin had ever seen immediately appeared on Jungkook's face. Without wasting another second, the man captured Yin's lips in a dizzying kiss. But this time, it was different. There were no more shadows of a script, no more need to follow the plot scene by scene. The kiss was pure, filled with overflowing emotion, gratitude, and love that had finally found a place to belong in the real world. Jungkook kissed her with adoring tenderness, pouring out all the feelings he'd hidden behind his playful facade. Yin returned the kiss with all her heart, allowing herself to completely fall under the spell of Jungkook. Outside, the rain was still falling over the earth, but inside that room, their universe had just begun. It was no longer about a romantic story hidden behind a pen name and a laptop screen that blurred the line between fiction and reality, but about a true love that had finally been revealed and was shining brightly in real life. The 10th chapter on the app might have been waiting to be written as the ending of Jongki and Yuri's sweet story, but for Jungkook and Yin, their real-life story had just written its first and most beautiful paragraph.